radio, building dreams and achieving more, telling it just like it is. Most of all, keeping it real. Are you ready for real talk? Changing lives and communities. Real talk. Saving all our families. Real talk. Bringing hope for you and me. Real talk. Real talk with Judy. Real talk with Judy on the radio. Real talk with Judy. Real talk with Judy on the radio.
Yeah. Hello, and welcome to the Real Talk with Judy live show. I am Dr. Judy. I am Dr. Judy, your Real Talk host. I want to thank you for tuning in to today's Real Talk with Judy first live show at its new time. And that's right, you are my first listeners and viewers for the 11:30 a.m. show. And I want you to help me spread the word. Real Talk with Judy show, same day, that's every Tuesday, new time, 11:30 to 12:30. And hear this, the new station beginning Tuesday, August the 4th, 2020 at 11:30. I am joining the Hallelujah is the highest praise family with Doc D on 95.3. That's it. So this is our new time, 11:30 to 12:30, and beginning August the 4th, it would be with Doc D on 95.3. So like a wildfire out of control, I want you to spread the word. And I will still be coming on Facebook Live and YouTube and all of that. It's just a new time, and I am excited. I'm excited about the show. Excited about what the Lord has done. So just spread the word. Real Talk with Judy. New season, new time, greater expenses, same day, every Tuesday. Want to say hello to my mother, Dr. Irma Hunter Wesley, the reason I am who I am. And I want to thank God again for my wonderful and amazing husband, Pastor Gerald Mandrell, the reason I get to do what I do. So I'm going to navigate you through an experience of power, inspiration, motivation, and empowerment and learning today. We're going to learn some things today and get a clear understanding. So I want you to go ahead and share, invite, get people on here. 11:30, and these shows are made possible by my business partners and individual partners who partner with me in this show. And so you too, I would like to have as a partner. You can cash out me at $Judy, Real Talk with Judy, or you can go to my PayPal on my page at www.realtalkwithjudy. And today's show is brought to you by my mama. Today's show is brought to you by my mama, Mother Irma Hunter Wesley. So I want to thank her so very much. I want to say hello, Jackie Jenkins, Stephanie Wilson, Elder Sandra Thompson, and all of those of you who are coming on. Want to say hello and thank you so very much for coming on. Well, let's get ready for the show. We got a great show today, a great discussion. Children's Services Council. Does Leon County need one? Do you know what it is? And so we're going to talk about it as we get ready. I'm going to pray. And God, we pray that today you will give clarity and understanding to the listeners, and that we will make a sound choice as to what's good and best for our children as we move forth in these uncertain times. Today, we will hear the voices of some of Tallahassee and Leon County citizens who represent the committee and board of the Children's Service Council, who are seriously concerned about the lives of our less fortunate children. We're going to hear why we need one, what it's all about, who is going to benefit, how we can invest in it. So get ready. I have the honor of introducing the voice of Leon County. I call her the voice of Leon County's Children's Council, an honorable woman who has nearly 20 years of experience representing clients in private practice and providing innovative solutions to help clients achieve their strategic objective. She earned 2 degrees from Florida State University in Tallahassee, beginning with a Bachelor's of Science in Business in 1992, followed by a Juris Doctorate, summa cum laude, in 1999. And man, she has an extensive resume that really touched. I knew a lot about her, but man, she just went far and beyond. She's the mother of 2 adorable sons, the wife of Tallahassee's mayor, and she learned in her work that interpersonal relationships built on integrity and professionalism are valuable access for clients. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome one of the most humble and kindest women I know, my friend and sister girl, Virginia Jenny Daly.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Pastor Judy, so much. Oh my goodness, I'm terribly flattered by your comments. So I'm so thrilled for the invitation to be here today to talk about the Children's Services Council. Everyone that you'll see today and talk to, we are all volunteers with a campaign committee. Okay. We call it Our Kids First for Lee County, and that's the name of our campaign team. Here in the room with me, I am joined by some of our key volunteers. To my left, which I think is your right, I can't tell, is Lily Bogan here with us. We also have to my far right, to your left, Mr. Steve Beasley, and also here right next to me, Miss Margaret Franklin, who is a children's services provider here in Tallahassee. So I'm thrilled to be joined with this really phenomenal group of leaders next to me, and everyone else that's with us.
Thank you so very much, Jenny, and thank you all for being on with her. And we have a host of others. Jenny is going to introduce the rest of our guests that we are glad to have this morning. And so, Jenny, if you would you bring on the rest of the guests?
Sure. So our next guest is John Moyle. He's a local attorney, and it's his fault that we're here. He started all this in the spring of 2018. He
Wow.
went and spoke to my husband when John was serving on the county commission, and he said, you know, the children in this community really need some help, and we really need to do something about it. And he prepared to give a really long, drawn-out story and argument. And John said, hey, I agree with you. Let's do this thing. And so John Moyle is the reason we are all here working on this effort, and I credit him with a lot of leadership. So John Moyle should be joining us.
Thank you, John.
Oh, thank you. And we're grateful to all of the efforts that the group is putting forward to try to help our kids in this community. And I'm privileged to be on your show, the Real Talk Show, Pastor Judy. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, sir.
Great. And our next guest is Dr. Mimi Graham. She has spent her career as an expert in early education, early childhood education, early child care, and intervention for children with adverse childhood experiences and trauma. And so we're so happy to have her. She was also instrumental in this from the very beginning, and has served on the planning committee for the CSC. So has a lot of experience and knowledge. Thanks for being here, Mimi.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Judy, for having us. It's a privilege to be on your show. It was a privilege to be on the planning committee for the Children's Services Council. And we heard testimonies from people all over the community about what the need was. And I was just blown away at, even though we're doing a lot in our community, there's a lot of unmet needs. So I look forward to talking about that later. Thank you.
And thank you, Mimi, for being on. We are excited. I'm excited about every guest. Like, you are bringing a lot of expertise in here. Thank you, Jeannie.
All right. So then our next speaker is a city commissioner, Commissioner Elaine Bryant. She has been instrumental in the discussion and the campaign for this project. And more importantly, she is a true servant leader. She won't tell you this, but every Tuesday and Thursday, she has been out this summer with South City Foundation serving meals and virtual school packets to children on the south side of town who are in need of these resources in the pandemic. So we're really thrilled to have somebody who's already boots on the ground doing the work, and in her city commission role, we appreciate her leadership.
Dr. Bryan is not on. She was, but she jumped off. So if she gets back on, we'll bring her back on.
Okay, thanks. So
Thank you.
Finally, I want to invite on Nancy Stepina Robinson. She has been a volunteer with us for some time and has been instrumental in helping us gather and convene community groups in support of the campaign and the Children's Services Council. She is a management consultant in higher education and administration. So she brings her own career-long expertise in this field, and we're so happy to have her.
Thank you so much, Jenny, and thank you, Dr. Judy. I'm already enthusiastic about everything that you're doing for our community, and so thank you for bringing us on to allow us to move forward with some community efforts. I am a community supporter. I've been around this state. I've worked in a lot of different areas in the state, and I love Tallahassee. It's my favorite city in the state, and we have so much potential here. And I think the Children's Services Council provides us, all of Tallahassee, the best opportunity to do, to take the potential and move it to the next level for our children in this city. So I'm just so thrilled to be involved in this, and thanks again for having us.
Thank you so much, Nancy. We are truly, just mute yourself for a minute, Commissioner. I'm a break. There you are. But we are glad to have you, Nancy. Thank you so very much. And we are enthused. I agree with you. I think Tallahassee is an awesome place. I'm from Fort Lauderdale, but I like Tallahassee. I had to grow on me at first because I'm from a fast city.
I hear you. I hear you, Judy. I lived in Miami.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I hear you. But boy, I'll tell you, there's no place like Tallahassee. It's
I love
a beautiful
Tallahassee.
place, and we need to make it better. Everything that we can do to make this place better, let's do it.
I agree with you 100%. We got our problem, but who doesn't? But we don't have the problem we could have. So I really am thankful. Commissioner Elaine Bryan, one of the hardest working on the boot ground for real out there. I've seen her trying to hula hoop and out there playing around and serving food and just doing an awesome work. It is an honor to have you on, Commissioner.
Thank you, Dr. Judy. I am delighted to be here today. I had a few technical difficulties, but you keep pushing buttons, you'll eventually get to where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. So Jenny and group, I am so honored to have you all. Ladies and gentlemen, this group will give to us the ins and out, the know-how, answer questions. So if you have any questions, you can ask them. They will be more than willing to answer your question. The goal of today's show is to get all of the listeners to understand what the Children's Service Council is. And after reading, I've told Jenny and this group that after reading it, after studying it, after listening to the presentation, I am in agreement, Margaret, as a daycare owner, that I think these services would benefit our community in a great way. And I'm sure that everyone on here agree with me that we would definitely be benefited. Our children will be benefited in a great way. So I'm going to start with the first question that I have. And it is going to be, can you please explain what is meant by a Children's Services Council?
Yeah, so Pastor Judy, thank you for that question. I'll give a short summary, and anyone who wants to add in can. A Children's Services Council is a dedicated body throughout Leon County that is dedicated to nothing but providing services and support for our children and families in Leon County who are in need. I think all of us would agree that there are substantial unmet needs here in Tallahassee and throughout Leon County. And so what I believe the Children's Services Council does is it creates one new pathway with new revenue sources for these services in our community and for these communities in need in Tallahassee. What it is it's a creature of statute. It was created by the Florida legislature that gives each county the option to create this local body to be a dedicated body just for children's services. There are a handful of other counties in Florida who have them. And I'll tell you, I think others have shared this with me, and I agree. We have seen the success that Broward County and Brevard County and St. Lucie County have had with these children's services councils, and we want to bring that to Tallahassee. And so as a summary, I think a children's services council is a new tool in our toolbox for supporting communities and children and families in need here in Tallahassee. It is a ballot measure that will be on the ballot for all voters in Leon County in November. So on November 3rd, everyone in Tallahassee will have the opportunity to vote yes or no on this proposed council. It will be the very last item on our ballot. And so I want to make sure everybody knows that you have a chance to vote, and don't just vote for president and then leave. You got to read the ballot all the way down to the end. And don't forget to vote that last vote for children here in Leon County. So that's sort of an overview of what it is. Do you have follow-up on that, or should I turn it to other speakers?
You can see if anyone else would like to say anything on it.
Anybody? Margaret would like to speak.
I think that the Children's Council is really much needed because we need support for the parents. I've been in the children's business for over 25 years, and I noticed there's not a lot of support to direct parents. And there's so many parents that are not educated, and they need a council to help guide them with all the resources and all the services.
Dr. Elaine? And you got to unmute yourself.
There we go. Yeah, I wanted to add to what has been said, in that during this pandemic, we have come face to face with many families with children who were still in need of basics, whether it was food, all the way to laptops, computers, to things that are necessary in order for them to succeed. So we don't actually discount what currently exists, but I think that this council and the funding that is associated with it will be an added plus. And right now, I think that would be very much desired for our community, as we certainly have many needs. Just wanted to add that comment.
And also, Lily wants to share a comment.
Good morning. Actually, I'm very excited about the Children's Services Council because I think that we all recognize that there are some very good programs out there that are providing services for children, but we also recognize that we could do better. And one of the things I think we will find with the Children's Services Council is that it will be looking at the data. And we will be looking at what the metrics tell us and where the money should go and how we can change the trajectory of the services that we are providing and outcomes for children. I've been around Tallahassee now for a long time, 40 plus years, and I've worked in children's programs and worked for policy for children at various levels. And I think we all know that there's some very good things out there, but I think the Children's Services Council will allow us to evaluate the data, set the metrics, and change the way we are doing business.
Mr. John? Attorney John?
Yeah, well, thanks. I just wanted to make a point that I think is important for our community as they consider this, which is, this is a local tool that will be used by local people to make decisions about how to make investments in programs that can improve things for our kids. And we have looked at what other communities have done. Alachua County in the last election cycle put one in place. I think they're in 9 communities, and they've served those communities well. And we are hopeful that we will have one in Leon County after the November election. I will also say this is something that has received broad support throughout the counties that have had them. And it gives the community the ability to look at things and say, well, we're going to solve that and address that. And one of the things that I like to tell, there's a story, and I think it may have been St. Lucie or Martin County. There's one in Palm Beach, but they said, we want to have a nurse go out and meet with every mom, if she's willing, after she has a baby, just to check on the mom, check on the baby, and give some direction to them. And I was talking to the superintendent of schools about this, and he said, John, that's a wonderful thing, because there's some issues that arise after a new baby's born, and regardless of community, of who, there's no measurement about who would get that. If you had a baby, you'd be offered this service. And the superintendent said, I think that would be great if we could encourage them to read to kids, maybe bring out a couple of books with that nurse. That's a wonderful teaching opportunity. So I just tell that story to underscore the point that it's a real good opportunity for our community to look at issues and to weigh in and make a difference. And it's a tool that we think is worthy of support come November when people go to the polls.
Yeah, I like that. I like that story. I have a program called the Dream Builders. I know Dr. Elaine know about it. The Dream Builders and Jenny Dream Builders Family Affairs, and we're going into homes right now. And to me, that's one of the things that our community seriously need. We need people who can go into the home and assist. I think Ms. Margaret stated the parents in the home to help, because sometimes they're not going to come out, but if after they've had a baby or different thing, we get people in the home. And if I'm hearing correctly, this is part of what the Children's Services Council would do, would help get services into the home for the parents and the children.
Yeah, I think I would just follow up. One of the things that I believe works really well is that the group that will be put together will look at all of the issues and the needs, and then they will make decisions about, well, we need to invest here, we need to invest there. And I think, a lot of people, Dr. Graham served on that committee, but they said early learning is very important. So, I believe, the decisions have not been made yet. They will be made after the group is constituted and they receive input from the public and others. But I believe that the group will look at early learning and do things like you're doing, and that was done in St. Lucie County of trying to reach out to people early and make sure everything's going well. Because if you can help a kid get a good start, it'll pay dividends. The folks, the business community in some communities have been leading the effort, and we're happy that the business community here has said this is a good thing for our community, because ultimately you want to have people ready to enter the workforce and have good jobs, and we believe this is a good tool to get people started on the right foot.
Mimi?
Yes. One of the things that our committee did was to look at the 2,000 pages of needs assessments of, what was going on in the community, and invite community folks to come tell us what were the needs. And so based on that, we came up with 3 priority areas to recommend to whoever the new council members are. And that is success in school and life. We know that in our community, despite our good efforts, only about 12% of kids are in quality childcare childcare. And so it's not surprising then that about half the kids coming into kindergarten are not ready for kindergarten. So we really want to increase the supports. And one of the really unique things about a Children's Services Council is you just don't go throwing money everywhere, you know, and have good intentions. It's based on evidence-based programs that have shown to be effective. So the program that John was talking about, the Nurse Family Partnership, they really wanted to decrease low birth weight and infant mortality in Palm Beach. And they targeted a specific zip code that had high need and brought in this evidence-based intervention. And so it was very effective. A lot of times we're trying out things, but it's not targeted to the folks with the highest need, and it's not a program known to be effective. So that's one of the things that's unique. The other priority areas are healthy children and families, and that is both physical health and mental health. And we have discovered during this pandemic that we don't have enough mental health supports
Right.
in our community, and particularly in the places that they're needed. And
Right.
then the third area is stable and nurturing families. And that's both about our youth development of our teens, as well as addressing the food instability. And one of the things we know is that investing in early childhood has benefits, there's snowball benefits. And we look at our high crime rate, and what we know is that we have a lot of communities where there has been trauma across multiple generations, and we've never addressed the trauma. We've never healed the children who've been maltreated or whatever. We just keep passing them through the systems. And we know now what things can make a difference and what can help address the crime, from prevention to intervention at different stages. So I'm really hopeful that the Children's Services Council could bring in some much needed data-driven interventions known to work in the communities where they're needed.
Dr. Nancy?
Yeah, and Dr. Judy, that's really what I'm excited about as a community supporter of this effort. We have all the experts here who are talking about this, and it's just really targeted funding is so important. We have so much money that can be circulating, but having targeted funding that's based on identified community needs. What does our community need? I think John Well talked about that earlier. It's identifying what our community needs, not what any other, but what does Tallahassee, what does Leon County need, and then targeting the funding to those identified needs. And then further, as a community supporter, what excites me is a lot of times I see wonderful programs, but they're one-off. It's like we put the money in and a year later, we're not sure we're going to be getting it again. I think one of the things that this provides us with is the ability to say, this is going to take, when we go into a community, when we go into a home, we have to follow those people and those children, and we have to follow them through the course of a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 until they get to school, when they're born, and then they enter school. There's a whole period of time that's very important to their development. Well, if this is something we want to do, our community can do that because we have the research that says if we do these things and we follow through with those things over some period of time, we can get there. So this provides a funding mechanism that allows us to do something more long-term, I think, than in the past we've been able to do, and based on accountable and accountability. What are you going to do, and when are you going to get there, and is it working? And if not, it's based on a research model. You can change the process before too long. And so it provides for transparency as well as accountability in a longer term process. That's what makes me really excited about this program, different than others that are wonderful programs, but they don't have the opportunity to do this because they don't have the opportunity for a funding operation like the Children's Services Council would be.
So you all will look at programs, evidence-based, to see what services they are providing on the 3 needs that has been determined, established, and then invest in those programs, collaborating, coming together to help the families. And I like it too, Nancy, that it's not just short term. So early education start from birth. Is that correct?
Yes,
So
absolutely. And
from
Dr.
birth,
Yeah, and Dr. Graham has she's one of the experts in that area. And yes, so you've got to start from the beginning and move through, and also involve the families. And so, as Mimi said, Dr. Graham said, the idea is setting up kids to be successful in school. Okay, and how do you do that? And then healthy children. So that's another opportunity. Healthy children, you've got to have the healthy children in order to set them up for success in school and life. And then finally, a stable and nurturing family. All of these things we know are important and all contribute to the success of our community and the people that we have in our community who can live better lives by implementing some of these things that we know will work.
yes.
And we've seen it work. You know, these children's services councils have been around, some of them since the 40s, and it's really impressive. You know, in Miami-Dade, they increased their graduation rates. In St. Lucie, they decreased teen pregnancies. In your home of Broward, youth arrests dropped almost in half. Palm Beach reduced child abuse. So it's been proven, and that it's an effective way to utilize and make investments in the community. So we want to have these similar results in our community.
That sounds real good. That sounds good. And so the voters are going to get a chance to vote on it. Jenny, if I heard you correctly, in November.
That's right. November 3rd is election day.
And so community, and I'll just receive a text. The listeners said that they're having some technical difficulties, that the show keep going in and out. Priscilla will look at that. You all, I apologize, but it's going to be replayed too, but we're going to get it. So if you have any questions, jump in as you can. So on November the 3rd, this is going to be on the ballot. And if I remember what Jenny said, it's going to be the last question on the ballot. Is that correct?
That's right. That's exactly right.
Okay. So what we're doing now, ladies and gentlemen, we're giving you an opportunity to hear what this is all about. And I am excited about it because I have had the opportunity to study it. And so, but what we did today, I wanted to bring people on who have not only studied it, but got the data, got everything going, and you can ask questions as to what they're going to do. I'm glad you gave me some success reports from how the council is being effective and I think John said it's a tool that the local people can invest in our community. And with that is going to come through a new tax, right?
That's right.
So how would you respond to the questions or concerns about a new tax?
So Pastor Judy, that's a good question, because the proposed Children's Services Council is a dedicated funding initiative, and it is funded by Leon County property tax revenues. So all property owners in Tallahassee, if this is adopted by our voters, will be assessed a small tax each year that will provide this dedicated revenue source. I think that it is an important investment in our future and in our children that makes this a worthwhile investment and a worthwhile tax. We are in this moment of pandemic and in this moment of racial unrest here in Tallahassee. We have hundreds of people who are walking on the streets and who are protesting systemic inequities, systemic unfairness, decades, hundreds of years of unfairness that that sort of play out, that demonstrate themselves in unfair outcomes and different outcomes between white children and black children in this community, between poor children and rich children in this community. And all of those systemic inequities, we have so many voices in our community saying, we're not happy with where we are, it's not good enough, we need to do something. This Children's Services Council is exactly that something. It is something that we can do that will address and I hope begin to minimize and repair the systemic inequities and inequality in our community. And so it is a proposed tax. It will be a burden shared by all property owners in our community, but we think it's a good idea because it's an investment for all of us to make the right choices for our community. And I'll give you a couple of examples. In our community, we have passed the Blueprint infrastructure tax, which is a similar tax measure here in Leon County. And we also have the sales penny tax that goes for our school board, our school system. And I think our voters, actually just this last election cycle, our voters re-upped. You know, we approved again the next chapter, the next 20 years of that Blueprint tax measure. And I think that the Children's Services Council is just like those two measures. They are local investments by our local people to say, we see a need in our community, we see problems in our community, and we want to do something about it. And it's a dedicated ability to keep those dollars here in Tallahassee and Leon County and spend them the way we want to spend those dollars. And so it is a new tax, but we think it's an absolutely important and timely investment given the world that we're facing today. And I think Margaret is shaking her head. Do you want to share comments on that?
Well, yes. What I'm seeing is the mothers, while they're pregnant, they're not getting it. I would hope that the Children's Council Services could look at the person that is pregnant. So many students, so many people are born, children are born with so many ADD, ADHD, because maybe, you know, a family member or something was taking a medication when she was pregnant, or maybe, you know, several things cause these problems. So the knowledge of getting those resources to help the person when they're pregnant before they're born, then after they're born, starting from birth with teaching parent to parent. We need something on parenting the parent, teaching the parent to be a parent. So many people are born that they don't have anybody to teach them. So we need something on some type of training for parent to parent.
Right.
Dr. Judy, to your question, I just want to note that you know, we have three chambers of commerce in our community: the Big Bend Minority Chamber of Commerce, the Capital City Chamber of Commerce, and the Greater Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce. And you know, the chambers of commerce are about business, but all three of them have looked at this issue and this question, and all three of them have said, we endorse this. We think this is a good idea. And I think that's a strong signal that that these monies will be well used, and there will be a stewardship arrangement where the people who will be looking at the issues will make good decisions. And so I wanted just to make sure that that point was made, that all three Chamber of Commerces in our community have endorsed this proposal.
And Lily wants to make a comment.
And I just want to say that I think there are two key factors that the voters should remember. And one is that all the dollars will remain local. And that secondly, the burden will be shared by all of the property owners in the county. So I think that when you look at it, it should not be necessarily that burdensome on one property tax owner, but all of the dollars will be spent locally and will not go throughout the state of Florida. So I think you have to remember that when you enter the ballot room to vote.
Mimi?
Yeah.
And
So
hold on, this is good, y'all. I'm sure that the audience are taking notes. Y'all are listening, but this is really good. I am sold. I really am, because I have had my little, questions, but I am appreciating it. And Jenny said the main word I like, that's investment. And then the money going to stay in our city, in our county, and it's going to be used by our people, for our people. And we're investing in the future of our children and our parents. Margaret, I can see us helping our parents. We can see the birth mortality going down, and I'm envisioning all this as you all are talking. Like, we're about to make a difference in our community with our money. Mimi, come on, y'all got me excited. This is real talk.
absolutely. And we've seen it, and I've been envious of our, programs across the state that we haven't had one here, because we've seen how much it is improved. And some people hear a tax. Well, we don't want a tax. Well, actually, it's only 50 cents per $1,000. So if you have $100,000 house, you're paying $50. I mean, that's less than a coffee every day. And so it's really for the community good. And when they have reassessed all these communities, many of them have already had to go back to the voters, and they've overwhelmingly been reapproved in the communities because they have shown their value. And I think we can show that as well here. And that's a reason that the sheriff has endorsed the Children's Services Council, because he believes that, when you start out early and you're, helping families and you're providing community services, it can eliminate the crime problem we have. The school superintendent, Rocky Hanna, is behind this, and because he knows that what we do in the first 5 years, when 90% of the brain is development, sets the stage for the success of kids in school. So we have many of our community leaders, our CEO of the Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. He understands if we invest in healthcare, we're going to need less hospital emergencies. And so across the community, we've seen widespread support, because people understand that if we make these early investments, we're going to save a lot more money later down the road.
That is awesome. Who had Dr. Bryant, Commissioner Bryant?
Yes, yes, yes. Let me add on to that. It is an exciting time, because we talk a lot about disparities in our communities, and here we have an opportunity on the front end to help shape people's lives, young people's lives, as they move through the educational system. I was speaking with a group yesterday, and they were very insistent on ensuring that there was proper nutrition for kids in their community, because absent that, the learning process, especially at a very young age, will be negatively impacted. So here we are with an opportunity to invest in children in a very real way. And the other thing is that the collaborative effort, Ms. Graham, you just talked about the number of people who are coming to the table and actually saying, yes, I support this. And when you see that happen, you know that there is collaboration, not just a singular group, but collaboration across our community. And then there are best practices. We're not the first people out the gate, but we want to get out the gate. And so I'm hoping that we will take advantage of best practices that have been in place. We can see what has worked, what has not worked. And then the fact that, and this just goes back to my own sole belief of strategic planning, that we now will have actual data that says, look, this is what we did, this is what we said we would do, and here are the results. And most people can embrace that when they get to a place of actual data. So I just wanted to pile on to the comments about the value of what we're attempting to do.
Thank you. And what we have listed is to see the report of needs and recommended priority areas. You can go to that website. You can get more information. And they say you would like to donate to this campaign, please go to that. Tell me a little bit about the campaign that we're asking to donate to. Tell me a little bit about that.
So Pastor Judy, that's a great question. So the campaign is run by a committee that is called Our Kids First for Leon County. John Moyle is the chair of that committee, and everyone you see in front of you are volunteers and financial donors to that campaign and to that committee. We are a volunteer-driven organization, and we are working to get the message out to our community of why we think this is a really good idea for our community, and why we hope that the voters will adopt this in November. Our campaign is going to involve a lot of one-on-one and group meetings like this. Actually, this is our first Facebook Live event, which is very exciting. So thank you so much for hosting us. But we presentations. So we've spoken to Kiwanis groups and the business and chamber groups. We've spoken to human services provider groups and other community organizations. So we're speaking to communities and also faith communities as they invite us to speak to their membership to share the message. We're doing that. We're also going to be, as part of our campaign, communicating with our voters, our likely voters in Leon County. And so that's something that we are raising money in order to do those paid communications with voters. And so if you donate to our campaign, and we'd love for you to do that at ourkidsfirst-leon.com/contribute. If you donate, that's where your donations will be spent. They will be spent on communications with voters as we get closer to election season. And then the third prong, I would say, of our campaign is that we are gathering endorsements. You've heard from some of the speakers already. As John said, in the business groups, we have all three of our chambers of commerce who have all voted to endorse this measure, which is remarkable. It's just not been seen in 20-25 years for a measure like this. And so that's really exciting. We've been working with the human service provider community. So Kids Incorporated, Whole Child Leon, the Pace Center for Girls, Big Brothers Big Sisters, all of these folks who are boots on the ground doing the work. We are receiving endorsements from those organizations, and we're so thrilled to receive those endorsements and to look forward to partnering with those groups. And then the third group of key endorsements are our elected officials. So Commissioner Bryant is one of our local elected officials. I, of course, am married to our mayor, who brought this measure to the county commission when it was before the county. He served as a county commissioner. The county commissioners all voted in support of bringing this to the voters. And so we have their support. The city commission at that time voted on a resolution in support of the measure. And as somebody said earlier, we also have endorsements from our school superintendent, our local sheriff, our police chief, our and several of the school board members. We were actually scheduled to receive an endorsement vote from the school board, and then the pandemic hit and everything got turned sideways. And so that may yet happen. It's just been rescheduled because of the pandemic. But so that's sort of an overview of what our campaign is doing. And I will put in a shameless plug. If any of you have book clubs or church groups or prayer groups or service groups that you meet and are still meeting in this pandemic, we would love to be invited to speak to your organization so that we can help spread the word throughout Tallahassee about this measure.
Oh man, that is awesome. That got a lot of great support, endorsement from some people who are doing a lot of great work. How does this affect daycares and different things? Is everybody working in collaboration together?
Before I do that, Steve had his hand up, and then I'll
Oh, I'm
turn to
sorry.
Margaret to talk about the
While we were
childcare.
talking about endorsements, I'm president of the Martin Luther King Foundation, and our board has 100% endorsed it and is raising money for it. And our board consists of 50% ministers in this area. But the young lady that really stole my thunder was, if we invest now in our young people, we'll save money through the prison systems later on. This is very important. And but everybody is taking my thunder, and I've enjoyed this. And let's have some more.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. That means a lot coming from you. Man is highly respected in our community. And I agree with you. I think it's by the age of 3rd grade, it is stated they know whether a child is going to be headed to prison or not. So they build more jails. And so what I just heard from you, Mr. Beasley, and what I'm hearing from everyone on this panel here today is that we can stop that by voting, at least put a dent in it by voting for the Children Service Council, because we can get into these families early. We can get into these families early, and maybe they'll have to build more universities. Maybe they'll have to build more entrepreneur training programs, because we are steering these people, these children from a young. My mom ran a child care center in Fort Lauderdale for 45 years. She's ran a child care center for 45 years in Fort Lauderdale. And she too is in favor of this Children's Services Council. And I had to ask her, because, that's mama. And I had to understand what she said. Y'all talk a minute. This is right here. If I was on TV, this would be really funny. They would go to a commercial. But I unplugged my laptop and it is about to die. So would y'all do something? Would y'all talk real good about the council till I come right back?
Okay, well, Pastor Judy, thank you for that question, and we will try to behave ourselves while you are taking care of your technical issues. I think one of the questions that you had asked us to cover that we haven't addressed yet, and I'll turn it to John Moyle to address, is how does a CSC work, and what is the governing body of a Children's Services Council?
Okay, thanks, Jenny. And there's a state statute that was set up, and it's been in place for a number of years, that directs how this will be run. And as we said, it's going to be run by local people making local decisions about the betterment of our community. And it's a 10-member body, and 5 of the members will come from the governor. The governor makes the appointment of 5, but the list that the governor gets will be 15 people, and that will come from the county commission. So the county commission will screen and provide 15 people to the governor. The governor will look at those 15 and appoint 5. The other 5 serve by virtue of the position that they hold. And there's a number of elected people who are in the statute who will be on the council. So the superintendent of schools will be on the council. There'll be a board of county commissioners. One of the commissioners will be on the council. There'll be a school board member, again, elected, who will be on the council. There'll be a circuit judge who handles juvenile and dependency cases that will be on the council. That judge is also elected. And then there'll be the administrator from the Department of Children and Families who will serve. So you'll have 10 people that will be on the entity that is created. And one of the first things that they're charged with doing in the statute is looking at the needs and then making decisions. And the planning council that was put in place, that was chaired by Judge Schustrom and had the sheriff on it, the school superintendent, the mayor, along with people like Dr. Graham and others from the private sector. They they've looked at this closely and put together recommendations. We're trying to get the council, get them ahead of the game a little bit by all the work that's been done. So hopefully when this is approved, they'll be able to hit the ground running and start to make investments sooner rather than later. So that's a high level overview of the council and how it would be set up.
What about the staff? Is that part of the who? I know we have the council and then the staff. How does that work?
Yeah, there would be staff that would be put in place. After the council is together, they would make a decision about staffing. Just like any entity, they would receive applications, go through, and then make a decision about an executive director for it. That's the model that is being used in all the other communities that have them. There's an executive director and other staff that is put in place. It's not a heavy staff model. We've looked at other communities, and the numbers that they spend on staff are in line with what non-for-profits would spend on staff and within those guidelines. So again, the idea is to get the funds and invest them in the community. So I think the staff will be put in place, but obviously the focus is going to be to invest dollars in areas where the council believes the investments need to be made and can provide the most benefit. And one other point is this organization will not be providing services. That's not what they do. They look at the problems in the community, identify them, and then are charged with making appropriate investments.
Wow, that is awesome. I just got some good news. My sister said my mom, Dr. Irma Hunter Wesley, sat on the board of Children's Services Council in Broward County. So I'm all in. I'm all in. I am 100%. I was already in, but I'm sure enough in now. And because her heart and how she's raised us is we have to focus on our children. We are proactive. We can do anything, and I hope the listeners have really gotten the understanding that we are in need. Hear me, y'all. I don't endorse too often, but we are in need of this Children's Service Counselor. I believe for the citizen, the children, the family of Tallahassee, of Leon County.
Well, Pastor Judy, thank you so much for those comments. We are thrilled to have your endorsement. We didn't know that was an option, so thank you. That's just the best news ever. And if we're following in the lead of your mother after a career in childcare, and you in your career in public service and community support, I think we're in a good place. We must be traveling down the right road. So that is a very comforting thought. And as we get to the end of our time, I want to share sort of my bottom line, right? So there are a lot of different opportunities. My husband serves as our mayor, and I'm proud of him, and he and I work hard throughout our community. And there are a lot of opportunities for him and me to get involved in our community. And it's hard to say no. And so, but we have learned over time that it matters where we put our time and our energy, because we can't do everything and we can't be everywhere. But this is one thing where I think, kind of like the blueprint tax in our community, if we do this and we invest in this today in 2020, I think 10 years from now and 20 years from now and 30 years from now, our children are going to look back and say, hey, good job, parents. You made the right choice. You invested in the long-term future of our community, and Tallahassee is better for it. And so I really think this is an important investment. I think the time is now, as we have people in the streets, in social media, in conversation with each other, saying this is not okay. Tallahassee is not good enough where we are today. I agree. So let's do something about it. And this is something that we can do that can really move the needle. So I'm really honored to be a part of this effort because this is where I think this is what matters, is actually making policy changes that can truly be a change maker for all of our families and children in the future.
Wow. Thank you so very much, Mimi. As we get ready to close, would anybody else like to make any comments? I am absolutely thrilled about today. Anyone else?
Well, Dr. Judy, I just want to say you started the show by talking about, I think you said, spread the word like wildfire.
I did.
I think that's how you started the show. So let's end the show with, as me as a community supporter, I'm saying spread the word like wildfire. We know we want to be a better Leon County. We want to be a better community, and we can be a better community. So let's just do it. Vote in November. Vote for this.
Wow. There it is. Anyone else? We're
I would
winding
just
down.
like to say our young people matters.
Amen.
Amen. Amen, Mr. DC.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I just want to thank you. Thank you for having us on the show. We appreciate it very much. It was a good conversation to allow us to share what we think is a great idea for the community.
Thank you. Well, again, thank you everyone for tuning in to the Real Talk with Judy show. Y'all, we have been talking about the Children's Service Council, and it will be on the ballot, the Tallahassee ballot, Leon County ballot, November the 3rd. It will be the last.
We lost her. Bye.
Goodbye.
All right, she's having issues. She should be back in.
Bye, Priscilla. Thank you for hosting.
Thank you. Y'all have a great one.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.